All right, well, these very unconventional candidates, say what you will, are even saying of one Donald Trump that if he were to go 2-0 on the Republican side, pick up Iowa and New Hampshire, he might be unstoppable. A read from a former business titan in his own right, the former Microsoft COO Bob Herbold. Bob, what would you think if that were to happen? When even Ted Cruz says, look, I lose Iowa, and Donald Trump wins and picks up New Hampshire, Katie will bar the door. It's his nomination. What do you think of that?
Well, it's a long process, Neil, and I suspect that we shouldn't jump to a conclusion as to what the next surprise will be. So I think it's a little too early to make the kind of projections that you folks were discussing before.
These are all just possibilities. We call them possibilities. But one thing I do want to raise with you is you hear from establishment Republicans, I don't like that term because I think it's overused and probably overwrought, but they fear a Donald Trump. They fear a Ted Cruz, that either of these guys would be calamitous to the party in November. Do you buy that so far out the Petri dish candidates only assure a Democrat hanging on to the White House?
Well, you don't know. If you looked at the history of these two individuals that you mentioned, they've done some good things during their life. On the other hand, they're unusual in certain ways. In some cases, make people very uncomfortable. So one of the things that we have a big disadvantage in America is that the whole process for selecting a leader is very strange. If you were a corporation, this is the last way that you would determine who's going to be your leader.
You'd be looking at your CEO. You're right about that. Enter one Michael Bloomberg, possibly, who's entertaining a third-party run or could. Would that make a difference? He obviously sees an opportunity to sort of run up the middle if it's a Donald Trump on the Republican side and Bernie Sanders, maybe even a Hillary Clinton on the Democratic side. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that he would be a somewhat viable candidate, to tell you the truth, in that he projects calmness, trust, getting results. Most New Yorkers like him. Those that drink big soft drinks, I guess, don't. But by and large, this guy has a good pedigree, and I think that would come through. He's a lot calmer than a Donald Trump. I think he's a lot more seasoned than a Ted Cruz, and so I think that's what he's considering and saying, well, maybe I ought to take a run at this.
You know, Bob, the argument for having a business guy or woman in is that they know business. They know math. They know addition and subtraction, presumably, which gives them a real edge in Washington. But furthermore, they know to get things done. And I always think that makes sense, except they know to get things done in a private world. It's a very different world in Washington. Yep. So I don't know if that skill set applies or even is helpful. What do you think?
I think you're dead right. And one could claim that the whole process we call democracy in America has turned into, frankly, entertainment, where the media is so active that it tends to polarize issues because that's where the excitement is.
Right.
And so consequently, politicians are afraid to compromise. They primarily want to get elected, and so consequently they take very safe routes. And what you don't get is big, tough problems being tackled. And so that's what's causing you to make the point that could even a business person survive in that world? I don't know. It would be very difficult.
Robert, thank you very much. Good catching up with you. Robert Herbold, the former Microsoft COO. As Robert and I have been chatting here, an update on